we're talking recipe costing and why that's going to be important for us. And the main reason this is going to be important is because if you're going to be successful, you got to make money, right? I mean, if you're not making money, it's pretty much just a hobby. If you're not making money, even if you're lined up, you've got a line of people going down the road. If you're not making money with every single person walking in the door, you're not going to be open very long, okay? So we've got to make sure that we're profitable. And one way to do that is to cost out our recipes and to make sure we're charging what we should be charging for our recipes, okay? So we're going to go through and I'm going to show you exactly how to do that. We're going to work a couple of different problems to make sure that you understand it today. We'll look at it a little bit more next week in things like when we have multiple items. Maybe it's like a combo meal or something like that. How do we come up with that pricing, okay? So, we talked about this. Why do we want to do this? We want to be profitable. We want to make sure that we're staying on budget because that's going to be important. This gives us an idea of if our food vendors are going up in their prices, right? We can go back and check every now and then to see, hey, how come 6 months ago I was paying, $8.99 for ground beef and now I'm paying $12.99 for ground beef? Right? We can go back and look at that and see. We can see if something just is completely out of the price range of our restaurant as well. Right? We can go back and check and see if, well, this is a really good item, but people that come to our place aren't going to pay that for it. Okay? So you should have a sheet that looks like this. It's the grilled quarter-pound cheeseburger. You will see that it has your ingredients listed, and it has the amounts of each ingredient listed. And then what I have done is I have put the unit cost. So how did we purchase that particular item? Did we, and all you have to do is either look on your food purveyor's website, or just look at your invoices. Right? Just look at your invoices and see exactly what you're paying and how you're buying that item. Are you buying it by the pound? Are you buying it, we got heavy cream in today, 12 quarts of heavy cream at a time, 12 one-quart containers. Are you buying it, how are you buying the product, okay? So we have the ingredients, we have the amount that we need for the recipe, we have how we're going to purchase the recipe, how we purchase the item. The first thing we want to do is we want to try to make these two columns here that you see with the red arrows, the amounts and the unit, the same. Okay? So we need ounces of ground beef for the recipe, and we are buying pounds of ground beef from our purveyor. And we know how much we're paying per pound, but we need to really know how much we pay per ounce, right? Because if we know how much we pay per ounce, then it's going to be a lot easier to figure this out, right? So if we can break these down into the same unit, it's going to make our life a lot easier. So is it going to be, and I know 8 ounces is half a pound, but it's not always going to be that simple. Let's say that it was a lot more. You would still need to know the price per ounce here, okay? So how are we going to figure out what our price per ounce is on the ground beef? We know how many ounces we need. We need to know how much we're paying for every ounce. How many ounces are in a pound? 16, yeah? So we can take $8.99 and divide that by 16, and that would give us our price per ounce, yes? And so if we do that math, $8.99 divided by 16, so the number of ounces in a pound, we come up to 0.561. Now, I generally always do 3 decimal places after 3 decimal places when I'm figuring cost, because it just helps me to know, am I right there at rounding up another penny, or is it really low? Okay, kind of lets me know that. All right, so just over 56 cents per ounce. So now all we have to do is some simple math, right? We know the price per ounce. We know we need 8 ounces. So if we multiply 8 times 0.561, we get almost $4.50, right? 4.495. So far, so good? So then the next one is hamburger buns. We need 2. We pay $1.98 for a 16 pack. So what do we need to do here? What's the first thing we should do? Right. We need to figure out what the price per hamburger bun is, yeah? What the price per hamburger bun is. So $1.98 divided by 16 gives us almost 12.5 cents. We multiply that by 2, gives us almost 25 cents. Now this is showing us what we're actually paying for it, right? All right, so what about the ketchup? What about the ketchup? Have to remember some things when we're costing these things out, okay? Like, we don't buy ketchup. How do you normally buy ketchup in the store? Buy a bottle, right? You go pick up a bottle, you grab it. You got a lot of people coming, you get a big bottle. Just a little bit for the house, you get a small bottle. Okay, we generally buy it by what we call a number 10 can, which are the big cans, unless we're putting them out on the tables, which we can't do right now. The number 10 cans, it's 114 ounces. Okay, so we're buying it by the ounce. So we would divide $3.18 by 114 ounces because we need to buy 4 ounces, right? Or we need to use 4 ounces. And so then we multiply that out. It just comes up to just over, almost 3 cents an ounce. And then we're at 11 cents, just over 11 cents. All right, mayonnaise. We buy it in the big gallon jugs. Big gallon jugs. We need to know ounces here. How many ounces are in a gallon? Any ideas, thoughts? 128. 128. So 682 divided by 128 ought to give us just over 5 cents. We multiply that out, we should be at 16 cents for mayonnaise. Mustard, we buy it in a jug, $4.28 for 105 ounces. We want to know the price per ounce, so we go do that division. We get just over 4 cents. And then we multiply it straight across. 3 times the 0.041, it gives us 0.123, just over 12 cents for what we need, right? Now the next few get a little tricky. We're buying lettuce. We need 4 ounces of it. We buy it for $2.59 for every 2 pounds of lettuce. So how many ounces were in 1 pound? 16. So we got to multiply it by, or divide it by 32 this time, right? Because it's 2 pounds. So 259 divided by 32 gives us just over 8 cents an ounce. And then we can multiply that out to our just over 32 cents. How many ounces are in 3 pounds? $48. All right, so $5.98 for our tomatoes. $5.98 divided by that gives us 12.5 cents per ounce. And that puts us, once we multiply that out, it puts us at just right at 75 cents. £5 is just like saying 80 ounces. So $12.37 divided by 80 gives us 15.5 cents per ounce. Multiply that out to just under 62 cents for our cheese. Salt and pepper. How much do we need? Don't really have an amount on there, do we? We just say to taste. To taste. So it may vary a little bit. It's not going to be an exact amount every single time. So we can't really figure what we're paying for this, right? So what do? Freebie? Everybody gets salt and pepper for free. You can't do that. We can't give any freebies away, right? Because eventually it's going to put us out of business. So what we do is we consider these Q factors. Letter Q. Q factor. Okay? And here's how we're going to figure that out. We're going to take everything that we can figure, and we're going to add those together, and then we're going to multiply it by 1%, and that's going to be our Q factor, okay? So take everything we can figure up, add it together, multiply it by 1%, and it gives you the Q factor. So if we add these together, you should come up with $6.82, almost 83 cents. 6.828. So then if we do our math, times 1%, 0.01, gives us 0.068. 0.068. And that is our Q factor, and that goes into any item that we determine as a Q factor. Now, for this recipe, it's salt and pepper. It could be maybe you put a little bit of flour in something, right? Making a soup, you put a teaspoon of flour in there to help make the roux. That's probably going to be a Q factor. Maybe it's a little dash of hot sauce that goes into your hollandaise sauce, right? It's going to be a Q factor. Those small amounts that are either going to be so small that we can't really figure a price, or something that we don't have an exact amount, like a to-taste item, okay? So we plug that in both spots, okay, or in every spot that's a Q factor. Now we're going to add all these together. So at this point, are we good? Do we feel comfortable with this part? It's not too bad? Okay. All right, so we figured out what we're paying for everything. Now let's figure out what it actually costs us to put this thing together, right? So we figure everything up. We add it all together. Every time we make this recipe, it costs us $6.96. $6.96. Now, our recipe tells us that it makes 2, right? Because we have 2 portions. So this is just a single quarter pounder that we serve, okay? It's just a single quarter pounder, but our recipe actually makes 2. So we need to know what each portion costs, what we actually give to a single customer. So we take, to find our portion cost, we take our recipe cost and we divide that by our number of portions, okay? In this case, it's 2. It could be 4. It could be 500, whatever it is. So $6.96 divided by 2 gives us 3.482. And so we plug that in right there. So now we know how much the recipe cost us to make. And now we know how much we spend on each individual portion. Okay? So 2 very important numbers for us to be able to track. Now, what are we going to charge for it? What are we going to charge for it? That's what's going to be important as well, right? Because we have to make a certain amount of money, okay? In restaurants, the kind of going rate for our food cost, the amount of money we spend on food as it pertains to our budget is generally 32 to 33%, okay? 32 or 33%, and it just depends on the restaurant, and it just depends on what they're looking at. Some clubs, especially private clubs where people are paying paying monthly dues and having to meet minimums and things like this, that number could be a lot higher, okay, because there's other things factored into how they stay open. Some places that are multinational chains, McDonald's, Burger King's, places like this, that number could be a lot lower because they're using a big time buying power. Okay, but for the most part, most restaurants are going to run a 32, 33% food cost. All right. What that means is that for every dollar, every single dollar we have, 33 cents of it, in this case, because we're saying a 33% food cost, 33 cents of it is spent for food. So what's everything else spent for? It's profit, right? Goes right in your pocket, right? That's 67 cents out of every dollar. Heck yeah, if that was the case, everybody owned a restaurant, right? The other 67% goes to your lights, your mortgage, or your rent. It goes to your insurance. It goes to your employees' salaries, right? It goes to all the overhead that you've got. And do you know what the average profit after 3 years, the average profit for a restaurant owner is? It's going to make you all want to jump into a restaurant today. You'll invest all your money. Any ideas?
Like 5%.
4 cents on every dollar. 4 cents on every dollar. After 3 years, the average of what restaurants make. Okay? So, I know you want to run out right now and open a restaurant. Wait till after class. All right. So now we need to figure out what we're going to charge for this. We know the importance of why we got to charge something for it, right? We want to keep this $3.48 as 33% of the overall cost. All the other money's got to go to pay other stuff and hopefully put a little bit in our pocket. So we got to figure out our desired menu cost. Our portion cost divided by our desired food cost, which I will always tell you anytime I show you one of these problems. It's either 32 or 33%. This one's 33%. Will give us our menu price, okay? So our portion cost, 3.482, divided by our desired food cost of 33%, gives us a menu price of $10.55 for our quarter pounder. A little bit more than the McDonald's dollar special, isn't it? Now, as you're going through in your restaurant, because you'll want to do this for every one of your menu items, as you're going through and looking at these, you can say, yeah, our customers will probably pay about $8 for a burger, maybe $6 for a quarter pounder. They're not going to pay $10.55. This gives you the opportunity to go back and look and say, what's costing us so much money? Oh, we're paying $8.99 a pound for ground beef. That's what's costing us so much. Let's see if we can find something a little bit cheaper, okay, that will still work for us. That's the great thing about costing this out, is that you can actually look and see where all your money's actually going and if there's something you can do about that, okay? So $10.55 would be your menu price. Now, at this point, it's kind of up to you. There's restaurants that say we don't deal in change. All right, we don't deal in change. We're not doing $10.55, we'll do $11, okay? You really don't want to go down, because when you start going down on what your menu price should be, you're taking money out of your own pocket, right? So you don't really want to go down. You also don't want to jump up and say $10.55, okay, we'll charge $14, okay? Just like you don't want to take money out of your own pocket, you don't want to rip your customer off either, because if you rip your customer off, they're going to know, okay? And you're not going to be in business very long for that either, okay? So you got to be fair about it. You got to be fair, all right? So you could say $11. Maybe you say you just deal in quarters, right? So, okay, we'll do $10.75. We'll do $10.75, all right? So now you've got this one. It says loaded potato soup. I'm going to give you like 5 minutes. And I'm going to let you try it and see how we look. All right, let's take a look at it and let's see how we're doing, okay? How close did you come with your numbers? Even if you're not completely done yet, how close did you come with your numbers? Remember I said any of the really small items, we're going to put a Q factor on. So we did on all-purpose flour, obviously on our salt and pepper, we used the Q factor. So how do we feel about this? Somewhat kind of sort of makes sense? All right, like I said, we're going to do this again next week. And then we're going to have an assignment with it next week, okay? So you kind of got a week to process it if you want to go back and watch this, to understand it a little bit more, finish the one that you've got there, things like that. And then next week we go into a little bit more detail, and then you'll have an assignment to go along with it. It'll be like the costing or the conversion assignment. You can submit it. We'll look at it, see if there's some problems, let you go back and work on it some more, okay? All right. Questions?